Heavily, Harsh. I have so last community call I was talking about that company wide. I had lunch and learn where we shared our progress on Marcus, and questions are such like, uh, what if we have audits and someone from like a manager side, someone like executive wants to figure out all the encrypted fields we are leveraging, right? We have in the system end to end. Can Marcus be a place where somebody can query and figure out whether which all fields are encrypted, which all fields are PII, which all fields are whatever, like data quality, face it, essentially. Right now, what I tell everyone that if you have that in description in data facets, then we will have it because data quality assurance facet helps us with that. Um, uh, but not sure whether that could be a valid use case. That is one. Second, currently Marcus Web, right? So I can show you now, or we have a call on Tuesday. Actually, I don't have you in that call, but essentially what happens right now, our chart is pretty big, pretty huge chart, end to end. But say in that chart, somebody say I toggle off that chart to check only see the valid linkages, and I say reduce my depth to 2 or 3, right? But still the graph is really huge. I want to scroll it down or up. I can't do it right now because there is no scroll up, scroll down. What it does, it zoom in and zoom out. And that's more frustrating actually. Somebody from manager side, like they're like, what's happening here?
Mhm.
So that is, I'm not sure whether that's available right now with Marker's latest update. I have latest version though, but I'm not sure whether that's available or not.
Mhm.
These two things essentially, and one of my own issue may be column lineage. I don't see though, yeah, anywhere in my table. So, but somebody was telling me on Marker like there should be that column lineage should be available at least in the table, Markers table, but I don't see it. Maybe that's my issue. I have to see that. Yeah.
Okay, a lot of really great things. I'm just writing them down. So maybe as I'm writing this down, Peter, do you want to talk anything about sort of the UI or maybe show some of the things that you've been thinking about? Because for one, to answer your question about the lineage graph, we absolutely know. I think I think the API does a great job to understand the relationships, but it also is a graph that could be fairly large. So we have to think about better ways that the UI can display that, and specifically not return the entire graph, or if you don't want everything connected, how can we do it where you start exploring sort of if you're at the edges of your graph, can you click on it and see there's more dependencies, or more of an exploration versus here's everything and filter out yourself visually. So there's a lot more that we can absolutely do there.
And one more thing I will add in the subsection of lineage graphs is I know we have added that toggle button, uh, but I mentioned that on our Slack channel as well. Same as I said, like our graphs are pretty huge. Like we have an Airflow integration and one custom service integration with Markers. So Airflow integration is leveraging Open Lineage ecosystem, and another service is directly pushing data in Markers. So now when I go on Markers web and say I directly open a graph, which is pretty huge graph, it doesn't open at times. Then
Mm-hmm.
what I do that I figure out myself, uh, I go on the lighter graph, then I toggle off that button, reduce that depth to 2 or 3. Then I go back and search for the lengthy graph. Because toggle is off on particular chart, it toggle offs on all the charts. And then when I go on that chart, which is a lengthy chart, then it starts rendering it. Otherwise, it doesn't. But when I go to Grafana and check Marcus Web is consuming resources or not, it doesn't. It's just that its responsiveness is slow. So, and then at the same time, depth, real time doesn't change the depth. We have to refresh 2-3 times to see that depth change. Otherwise, it doesn't show it. Yeah. So yeah, few things. Yeah.
Yeah. So the so like auto rendering or I like auto refresh here. I think that maybe if we just have a way to be a bit more async there. But yeah, the interaction with the UI, we could have better ways that the UI could be a bit more responsive. The large graph rendering, I'm sort of with you here, but at Astronomer we've also seen this issue. It's just like if you do have a lot of dataset versions and dataset or job versions, that tends to be a fairly expensive query. There is a PR at the moment that is going to reduce the performance increase the performance on our lineage graph, which is done by Pavel. So I'll link the issue, but him and I are looking into reducing, I think, how expensive that query can be. The UI also has performance issues as well. It does render the graph in memory. And Peter, if you want to touch upon that at all, let me know. But there are rendering sort of concerns with large graph just because of the browser. It's all rendered there.
Yeah, I can go into some of these issues. I don't know exactly where to start. I guess I can start with like the zoom in, zoom out situation that we have right now. So I am not going to add scroll bars to the UI there, but I'm trying to find the time to build a new graph for column level lineage with a new interface for it that's a little more scalable. It would have a mini map, and it would automatically do like focal point readjustments and zooming and for you on your behalf. And it would also have a mini map so you could see like the greater expanse of your grid. To solve some of those problems. Scroll bars would be a very hard to implement buggy feature for us with the way we have our drag bar oriented in the Marquez UI. So yeah, I know about this issue, working on it. It is a lot of work. But I think the first thing we'll see, it will be a new little experience with column level lineage, because we don't, as you said, we don't have anything for that in our interfaces quite yet, and we want to bring something to the community there. So in terms of very large graphs and the depth sensor, so I think, Willie, the depth is inaccurate. It's very job centric, and it's doing like job to job depth. So I think we should make a change to be more semantically accurate to that depth reading, so that it's node levels instead of job levels, because 2 actually means more than 2. And then if you kind of skip over nodes, it can actually give you a big graph, which is what you're seeing there. So that, I think, adjustment we should be made. The other thing with the depth is we should save it in state a little bit better, and maybe allow it to be adjusted before you start rendering a lineage graph or something like that. Because yeah, I think that's a little bit weird of a workaround that you have to do to accommodate your larger graphs. And yeah, auto refresh is in the same vein. I think first, the easiest thing we can do, and I think one of the most popular ever commits to Airflow was a refresh button that they had for DAG views. So we could add something like that for our graph, so that as you're sending lineage events and trying things out, we could support that kind of behavior without like a hard browser refresh, because I know that's not ideal. So I think those about cover, I think, the issues you're describing. Something like lineage depth, I think anyone from the community could pick that one up. But at a personal level, I'm committed to hopefully delivering column level, some basic support on column level lineage sometime. So that's my priority. Anyway.
Yeah, and not to put you on the spot, Peter, but do you have any mock-ups or something that you've been working on, or is it too early?
I don't have them up right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Because Peter and I have been talking about ways to visualize it. Right now, it kind of sucks us in the tab, so we haven't had the opportunity to really make it as core part of the lineage graph. So that's something we could absolutely commit to, and I think we should. The one thing to note is column level lineage is coming from the open lineage integration. And I think right now only Spark supports open lineage. A column level providing that in the facet itself. So this would be currently for Spark, unless you're adding unless you have a custom integration and you're providing that facet. At the moment, it would just be for Spark.
Oh, so it's not for Airflow available?
I don't believe so.
Ah, okay,
unless...
yeah. Oh, on Slack channel, and I was like, how somebody is seeing that? And in my end, when I am printing all the task meta information at Airflow side, I don't find it. And then I was like, why it's not at my end?
Yeah, and I think for Harel, you're on the call. I think for open lineage, it might make sense to provide a column level lineage table and what's supported, like which integrations, because that kind of sucks. Like you read the docs, you're like, oh, column level lineage, and you don't see it, so it could be confusing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we should. It's one of the things that I've been meaning to add to docs for quite some time, is like a compatibility matrix of all the different features and what's supported and isn't supported and which integrations. Just some documentation work. We know exactly what works. Thank you. That's a good call out.
And I do want to get to other questions as well, but I do want to respond quickly with the audit. This one, we do have a tags API, and you could tag fields. Have you looked into that? Because you could absolutely query, and you could say, I don't know if, well, you could definitely tag, but is there a query that you can run, or like an API that says, give me all the fields that have this tag? I think at the moment, no. But you are able to tag fields in a data set using our tag API. Have you looked into that?
No, really.
Okay. So if I go to our reference, if we go to, like, for data sets, you could tag a data set as having example sensitive metadata, or sensitive data, or PII, and you could also tag a field as well. So this would give you.
So this you are talking in terms of custom integration, or say for Airflow through Open Lineage, I have to do it manually.
I see what you mean. Currently with Open Lineage, I don't think they have a tag facet. It's something that has been discussed, but not part of the integration yet, or any of the integrations. But Marquez will have, well, it does support it. So you could go through the UI. We've been talking as a way to even maybe provide something through the UI where you can say, here's a data set and add a tag. So something where you can make modifications in the UI. But at the moment, it's just currently through an API call.
I see. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So anyone else?
Yeah, so I have two issues. They are already created on the repo 2697 and 2692. 2697 is a highest priority for us right now.
Okay, yeah, let me take a look quickly.
Yeah.
2697. All right.
Yes, 2697.
Oh,
Yeah, that's it.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a blocker for us. Whenever we are calling get dataset API, it takes the column lineage with it in the response. And given that our tables are quite large, I have noted it down, but we were like 500,000 rows or more. That query never finishes once for like forever. And we do need to call this APIs. In the past, in the version 27 that we had like changed the markets itself to allow it to not get the column lineage at all. But now we are actually building something on top of column lineage. So we kind of need it. Before this is fixed, we can't go forward. So if you can prioritize that and kind of like provide some timelines in what version it would be available and when, that would be pretty awesome.
Okay. Okay.
We are planning to, we are planning to do something with column lineage in the beginning of Q2. So if we have any versions releasing before that, that I can get and do the upgrade, that would be pretty nice.
What was that timeline? I'm sorry.
Beginning of the Q2. That's where we are trying to build
Okay.
things on top of column lineage. So I need to get the version before and then upgrade it. So sometimes in Q1, if you can provide the solution to this, that would be amazing.
Oh, absolutely. You know, there is work that we're doing to limit the dataset versions that are being created, which has a side effect on this. And I think David Goss, you've had a number of issues that you've brought up, which is amazing. That would, I think, will help with the performance here as well. But I think it requires a bit more investigation to find the root cause here.
Yeah, I think I found the most of the root cause analysis I've done based on the query that it exactly runs. We are doing joins on the views, and that's where my anticipation is that because of the views, they don't have indices. It just takes too much to go through those 500,000 or those. Do you put depth constraint on your query? Have you gone to dataset lineage DAO, and there they have filter actually on depth? That maybe help here. You mean when I get a single data set, I put a depth there? So lineage DAO, if we go to lineage DAO, there is a query which you run to find the entire lineage, where you find the column lineage as well. There is a depth filter. So maybe that helps. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. Are you talking about like a lineage for a data set? Yeah. No, but we just want the data set itself, not the lineage around it. So there is an API call in Marquez that says, just give me that data set. And as a part of that data set, it gives the column lineage by default.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, here we're just trying to grab a data set, but what ends up happening is that a lot of our tables are we actually have quite a few tables, and we do a lot of inner joins just to get all the information that we need for a data set. And that's something we certainly have to rethink, because as these tables grow, it's becoming more and more obvious that there's going to be some performance issues, which we've reached at scale at Astronomer. But this one, thanks for, first of all, the write-up. I think it's going to be hard to go through it and like say, hey, this is the issue, but I think you did a great job. Thanks for telling us the amount of rows that you have. I think that's pretty critical, because we can certainly do something to replicate that.
Yeah, perfect. And also, like, one ask is that given that we want in Q1, I can reach out, but if you think that it's not possible, let me know so that
we can communicate to see if there's something that we can help you with to get it done. But it would be great if you are able to prioritize it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if you wanted to take on the work, like we could tell you, hey, this is the approach that you can take, and if you want to contribute back, that'd be even better. So we'll talk offline.
Yeah. But I'm just saying because we don't have the capacity. That's why I just
Oh.
wanted to create the issue. But like worst case scenario, if we have to start the work on column lineage and by that time there is no way that this can be achieved, then we can think something. That's what I was coming from.
Okay. No. Thanks for sharing the timeline. That definitely helps us with priority.
Cool. And the second one is 2692. That's about providing the delete endpoint for tags for the column level and the dataset level. Right now, there are some data sets that we are just like tagging, but as we get more and more sophisticated, we would wanna like remove it because sometimes we obfuscate a column, then it's no longer a PII. We want to remove it from there. But that opportunity is not possible right now. Now, there is no quarter deadline for that yet, but just calling it out in terms of like whenever, as early as you can provide. If you can communicate the timeline, that would be really great.
Yeah, this one's straightforward, and I think it's being worked on, but it hasn't been added to a release yet. I think was it the other David that's working on this?
Yeah,
David.
I'm looking. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Actually,
Mhm.
the field level one's a little bit funny because there's a bit of an odd interaction between the dataset level one. I think is fairly straightforward. The field level one's a bit odd in that the facets influence it as well. So we've had a situation where you can tag at a field level and technically should go between the dataset field and the dataset field tag mapping. However, if you have facets which have tags associated with the columns, they don't actually get removed as well. So that one's a little bit more tricky.
Okay. Yeah, I think you reached out to me about that, and I responded. Okay.
But the first one, yeah, that shouldn't take too long to do, I don't think.
Okay. Yeah, and we could split it up. Maybe initially you just do the data set and then the field after.
Yeah, actually, because right now we are only tagging the data set anyway.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, that was my little Christmas project, was the
perfect.
So yeah.
Very good. Perfect.
Yep, that's all I got. Thank you.
That's it. Oh, wow. I mean, those were two really big ones. Thanks for sharing. All right. Anyone else?
There's one thing that is going to become a little bit topical for me soon, and I raised an issue for it a little while back. We talked about it a little bit on one of these calls, I think, where about the lineage endpoints producing a sort of cumulative or aggregated picture, because I think if I have it right, like the dataset one used to do that, but then became a performance bottleneck. So now it will sort of go latest version only. But it does mean if you have a job, let's say that over the course of several runs has slightly different outcomes, then it will sort of flicker, and you'll see just the result of the latest one. Whereas I think one of the big strengths of Marquez is that all that historical data is there. So if we're able to tap into it more and give that like aggregated picture, it's great. I think so. I'll paste the issue or I can tell you the issue number because I've got it up. It's 2670.
Okay. Let's see.
So yeah, I think the next step on this was maybe that we could sort of experiment with some what queries would look like to make this cumulative, and then see if we can sort of mitigate the performance penalty. I know we talked about the idea of whether like a query parameter to cap how far back in time it would look might help. I guess the other thing as well, and it kind of maybe plays into some of the other topics, is that you get quite a lot of data back from a lineage graph endpoint, both at the data set and the job level, where I think certainly for the use cases I'm looking at, a good trade-off might be that you get a much slimmer response from lineage graph. Really, if you just even had the edges with the identifiers, right? Because you could build you could draw the lines and you've got the identifiers, and then you can go and kind of asynchronously like fetch information about the other stuff and hydrate things and be a bit more async with it. So yeah, that's something we could think about as well. So that's probably like the only thing that's a major topic that's kind of on my mind at the moment.
Yeah, thanks, David. There's two things there. I'll start with the last thing you said. With the lineage graph, can we just return back the node IDs? That's actually what we did at in the core part of our astronomer. We actually just have the IDs being returned. So at the moment, the lineage graph for Marquez gives you everything, which comes at a cost. But can you just click around, and when you click on a node, can you go out and fetch the data? I think that to me totally makes sense. And maybe it's just a parameter that you use to say if you want all the data or if you don't. Let me just write that down. And for your other one that you opened up, I think that's on me. I did not follow up, and I just realized now that it wasn't or it wasn't tagged or anything like that. And now it's part of the roadmap. But I do want to stress that this seems to be important for you because there's a sort of a timeline. Is that something that you could share so that way it could help us also move a bit quicker on getting a solution here? Oh, yeah, you're muted, David.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I think this is probably the next major thing that I'll be looking at. So kind of like from the new year, this would become topical, really. I think like the project that I'm working on, it's we don't really sort of have like fixed deadlines and stuff, and I don't want to add pressure to the open source project, but yeah, this is probably like the next big thing, and I can kind of definitely provide a lot of my own time to move it forwards as well.
Yeah, and would this be after the dataset schema version that you propose?
Honestly, I would say like if there's no sort of impediments to it, if we're able to get to like a design direction that we agree on, like this is probably higher up the list.
Okay.
Because like the other problem in that's a lot of that is like trying to mitigate sort of scaling issues with volume, and we can we can work around that with kind of spreading out the infrastructure and stuff, but we can't really work around the other thing.
Okay, that's really helpful. But I just want to say, like, your proposals and write-ups are amazing. Yeah, thanks for putting all the effort in there.
No worries.
Okay. All right, well, we will make sure that you get feedback on those proposals. I know it's kind of a weird time, but I do want to say that we do want to give you feedback on those proposals, and this has been really helpful for me just to hear from the community what we should be focusing on, because a lot of times I think we're stuck in, oh, there's this part of the code that I know could be better, but prioritizing and really showing every release has a impact is really important. It's something that we really want to do this coming year. Okay.
I got one more. Just it's a very small one with the UI. One of the things I've noticed with our devs when they're sort of tracing lineage is they want the ability to freeze the lineage picture or the graph, so rather than they've got something that they want to click on, they don't actually want to change the entire graph. They just want to be able to click into that data set and explore that data set more, rather than it re-rendering to show a different path.
Oh, I see. So right now, when you click around, the graph is jumping.
It'll change. So say we've got like a data, like say a data set like customer, for instance. So it's linked to a particular job. We're looking at the critical path for that particular job. That's all good. And then they go, oh, cool, I want to find out a bit more about customer. They click on customer, and then obviously everything that is related to customer comes up, and it's not what they're actually wanting. They're wanting to just go into and look at customer, but still retain the current graph.
Peter, we ran into that when we were doing Datakin. Like,
Yes,
is that something similar that we can, because we have a fix for that.
So yeah, that's something we have fixed in the commercial product, and the way in which we fixed it was we made our graph actually really dynamically adjustable. So if we did detect a change in the graph itself, it would fetch the additional jobs and data sets that it wanted, and then it would reposition your focal point so that the new node selected is in the middle of the screen, but you still got a good experience. So you really got a sense of, you can really get a sense of having like this living, breathing graph that, will change as you add or subtract nodes in and out of it. Yeah, right now with the experience with Marquez is not like that, because it's a very jarring transition on a node change like that. So yeah, having the graph layout itself be dynamic and have transitions is kind of directionally where I would want to go with it. I mean, it's something we were able to do on the commercial side of Astronomer. So no reason we can't return something like that to open source.
Cool.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks for. And should we open an issue for this? Like, maybe that makes sense, because we do want to capture that. So if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
And we're close to time. I also want to, maybe ask you, Peter, like a lot of the questions that we do see. I mean, some are UI, some are backend, but I know you've been kind of like brainstorming what can happen in the UI. Is there a proposal maybe that you want to put together and see in a community who might want to pick up tasks? Because I think you have some really great ideas and mock-ups that I've seen, but I think there might be people in the community that might want to help here.
Yeah, I think there's like two big looming changes that I think I would be the person that knows how to do these two things, which are the column level lineage graph and getting a better rendering engine into our standard lineage graph. But after that, we would be at a point where we could make like real incremental change and progress here on some of these smaller issues. And I think, Willie, I can also work with you on some of these smaller issues like the auto refresh. I mean, anyone can do that. I think it would be like 20, 30 lines of code maybe to have something that most people would use. So maybe we can get a few things in the roadmap in the short term, and hopefully get these like bigger features out in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay. Yeah, and I think as a follow-up to this, what we'll do is we'll take a look at the feedback that we got during this meeting. And before we end the year, I think we just want to say, these are things on the roadmap. These are the releases that we could commit to, especially here we're seeing things that should be prioritized. So that way you could expect something in a release and not just be like, where's the progress? It's been like 2 weeks or it's been a month. So going forward next year, we do want to commit when we say, hey, this issue is part of this release, we do want to commit to that. Anyways, that's all I had. Anyone else? Yeah, if not, I just wanted to just thank everyone. I think it's been a very, very eye-opening experience this past year with just new committers and the feedback that we're getting. I think it's been amazing, and we're hearing products being built on the APIs for Marquez, but also the UI usage is growing, and it's really humbling. So just thanks everyone for providing your feedback. We care.
Willie, sorry, I got into something else. But now when I see the pointers under UI, the second pointer, which is freeze lineage picture, that's valid for me as well. And if it can be prioritized, that's a really good way, because personally, I like Marcus process and everything. It's just that our team, I have to convince everyone, entire org, that Open Lineage is a place, because there are many competitors out there, but I understand open source project has much flexibility over others, but this is really critical feature for us as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's an issue going to be open, but I thank you for advocating for Marquez internally and Open Lineage. Obviously, let us know if we could help in any way around questions that come in, and we're more than happy to answer them. Especially if you compile it in a doc, and then we could just do it async. We're more than happy to do that as well.